Hey guys, I'm Abby and welcome to my channel, and also welcome to Shakespeare Week for 2021. Shakespeare Week is something I started last year, and I made a video every day for the week within Shakespeare's birthday and death. All the videos pertain to Shakespeare, whether it was his life or his plays and so on. And so I'm going to continue that this year. And this is the first video. And today I'm going to be going over some podcasts that you can listen to. These podcasts are going to range whether they are readings of plays through the media of podcasts, or they're like learning podcasts about certain topics within Shakespeare or certain plays. Not just readings of the plays, but they discuss them, talk about them, the themes, the debates of what is meant, the differences between folios and such. Today I'm going to name 6 of them. There are plenty more than the 6 that I'm going to name, but these are some that I've listened to or I've heard a lot about, and hoping if you want to get into Shakespeare and need some outlet that's a little different than just reading the plays or watching movie versions, hopefully this will help, especially with the podcasts that are more of debating and learning about Shakespeare and his writing other than just reading of the plays. So let's get started. I'm not going to break these up into sections. I'm just gonna kind of list them, but some plays are more directed towards just the readings of the plays and helping explain them as they go, and then some are more about the discussions around Shakespeare, whether it's about his life or his plays, and the issues within both. So the first podcast I'm going to mention is Chop Bard. It also is In Your Ear Shakespeare. This podcast is a very detailed reading of Shakespeare's plays. I'm not sure if he has all of them up yet, but they're very long podcasts, I would say an hour or more, and they go through every scene of a play. He also reads the notes and explains words and such as they come along, and they're not as familiar to us of more modern terms. I think he also lists what version of the play he's reading, so you can follow along whether it's Folger or Arden. But this is a great podcast if you want to listen to the plays and kind of understand them more through the readings. That is Chop Bard podcast, and I've listened to it and it's very detailed, very good, but you do have to really kind of pay attention to get all the notes and stuff that he's reading also. And the next podcast I'm going to mention is also one that focuses more on the plays, but they do have some episodes where they just do discussions about other things of Shakespeare, and that is the Shakespeare Sessions, and this is made by BBC Radio 3, and this one will range in time. They do have whole plays on one episode, and so they'll be, 2 hours long or such. They're just going to be reading through the plays. They're not going to do the descriptions and such as in Chop Bard. So it's more if you just want to listen straight to the plays, read by actors and actresses. But they also, like I said, have discussion episodes, which will be obviously very shorter, where they discuss things about Shakespeare and his plays and his life and such. But those two are really great if you want to go through the plays, whether in deep description or just through readings, and help you understand Shakespeare plays more. The next kind of 4 podcasts that I'm going to mention do focus more on the debate and discussions around Shakespeare and his plays, but they do talk about the plays in general too. But the next podcast I'm going to mention is the American Shakespeare Center Podcast Central. Obviously, it is connected to the American Shakespeare Center, which is right outside Washington, D.C., in Virginia, I think. It's also known for, they have a replica of the Blackfriars Playhouse there. They are one of the leading places for Shakespeare here in America, and they have this podcast and they discuss multiple different things within the plays, within his life, within the issues that come along with the plays and how they can relate to today. So it could be a great source of information if you want to learn more and hear more about discussions of Shakespeare besides just reading his plays. And the 4th one I'm going to mention is kind of very similar, also a very major source of Shakespeare here in the US, and that's Shakespeare Unlimited, and that's by the Folger Shakespeare Library. Next to Arden, the publishers for Shakespeare, Folger is a major Shakespeare publisher here, especially in the US. Lots of great informations and notes within their printed versions, but this podcast offers a lot of information too, and discussions and debates to learn more about Shakespeare and his works and the impacts they have. similar to the American Shakespeare Center podcast. The next podcast I'm going to list is probably the one I've listened to the most, just because they add so much humor into their discussions, and that is the Hurly Burly Shakespeare Show. There's two hosts who are scholars within Shakespeare and help teach and learn, but they go through the plays and do brief descriptions of them and then talk about them, and they're hilarious and they add a lot of jokes. That's why one of the reasons why I love listening to it as much as I do. But they also do great segments where you can learn about the actual production side of the plays, and they also help you learn technical terms and such. But mostly I listen to it because they are pretty funny, because they are passionate about Shakespeare, but they also like to laugh about it and everything that goes on. And like I said, this is probably the one I've listened to the most episodes of, and I have enjoyed listening to. The last podcast I'm going to mention is actually the podcast put by the Shakespeare Company here in Dallas, and that's Shakespeare Decoded. They recently started this podcast within the last year, and they have really great episodes of debate and discussion about Shakespeare and his plays. A lot of tiebacks to modern issues and how they tie in, how Shakespeare still lives today and can be relevant. And I think their episodes around an hour each, which is a great time to hear and listen, which is pretty typical for any Shakespeare podcast. But they go into great discussions of their topics that they choose, and I have enjoyed it so far. So there are 6 podcasts you can listen to help you get into Shakespeare, whether you want to listen to the readings of the plays, discussions of the plays, discussions of Shakespeare's life and issues throughout his plays and how they relate to modern times. But those are great starting points. But there are plenty more podcasts out there involving Shakespeare. There's episodes from other podcasts that don't focus mainly on Shakespeare that are also great listens. So if you have been wanting to get into Shakespeare and didn't really want to start with the plays and such, I highly suggest looking into podcasts, because they discuss so much, a lot more than just reading or going through the plays, even though there are those, and they can help you understand and get into it a lot more gently than trying to understand the language at first. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and check out those podcasts. Can't wait to continue with Shakespeare Week this year. I will link the playlist of last year's videos, and I will also create one throughout this week of these videos. Shakespeare's birthday, death day, whatever you want to call it, is coming up at the end of this week, so I will be releasing videos every day with him as the main topic. So I will see you guys tomorrow. And remember, if you want to be someone, why not be you? Bye guys!